What's happening, everybody? MG here, MGCovers, bringing you a brand new handicapping video. Very excited about this. This is not clickbait at all. This is all legit. We're going to explain it. Title of this video, can you win 33% of the time in sports betting and still profit? The answer to that question is yes. So without any further talk, let's dive right into it. Okay, before we get into some specific examples, I want to talk about sort of the preface to all of this, and it's what I call creative unit structure. And it's something in my own sports betting career that I've really embraced this past year, especially with baseball. We had a challenging year, but actually ended up profitable in baseball. But one of the ways we were able to do it was what I call creative unit structuring. There's not really a term for it. So here's the concept. You risk 1 unit per sport per day. And let's talk about that for just a second. What that means is you're going to So if you risk 1 unit per sport per day, what's the worst thing that's going to happen in that specific sport is that you're going to lose 1 unit. So whether it's NBA, NHL, whatever. So if you have a terrible day, let's say you wager 3 units, 3 different sports. Granted, you're down 3 units, but you're only down 1 unit per sport. The reason that's important is I treat each sport like a different business. I have an NBA business. I have an NHL business. I have an NCAA basketball business. So I'm always trying to make each of those businesses profitable as opposed to looking at it from a holistic or more of a macro perspective where I'm just, I got 5 plays I like. I'm risking 5 plays. I don't do that anymore. So the whole concept is risk 1 unit per sport per day. So the application of that is looking at the second bullet point, 3 plays in NBA. If you had 3 plays in NBA or any sport, you're going to risk 1/3 unit each play. And I base everything on my videos off a $100 player. It's just easy to understand. So if you're a $100 player, you would risk $33 per play. So you say, well, how do you figure that? Well, if you risk $100, if you're a $100 player and you have 3 plays, you take 100 divided by the number of plays, and you would risk $33 per play. Let's say you wager $30. Your unit size is $30. You're a much smaller player. You risk $30 per day. $30 a unit. So this specific example, you would risk $10 on each play for a total of $30, which would be 1 full unit. Now, the advantage to this, the reason this works really well, is if you lose all 3 games, you only lose 1 unit. Right? Whereas the traditional way, where you would risk 1 full unit on all 3 plays, you go 0 for 3, what happens? Now you're down 3 units. And one of the biggest, I don't know if it's mistakes, but one of the things that I wanted to improve on as a handicapper, sports handicapper, was to get rid of a lot of the wide unit variance. This kind of started last year, basketball season. Some of you that were clients in might remember that. I was up like 16 units very early in college basketball season, went all the way down to 2 units. Yes. And then we ended the season last year up 10 units total. So it's just not healthy for to have that type of variance. And again, the more you risk each day, the more you introduce that. If you're constantly risking 5 units per day across the board, 3 days, you got 15 units at risk, okay? You look at that from a week's perspective, 7 times, you're risking 5 units per day, right? Times 7, that's 35 units you've risked in 7 days. You're going to have unit variance. So this whole concept of creative unit structuring condenses all that so that you don't have as much unit variance. So going back to bullet point number 4, the advantage is you lose all 3 games, you only lose 1 unit. Disadvantage, if you win all 3 games, you only gain 1 unit. And since we're talking about sports betting, the biggest issue with sports betting is what? People losing money. And I've said this a number of times. Warren Buffett said, and if you read a lot of his books, he said one of the keys to making money is the first thing you have to do is you have to learn how not to lose money. And that's what I'm basically teaching you guys here and teaching myself that. So, again, if you win, you're going to win 1 unit. And if you risk the traditional way, you would go 3-0. So there's more advantage to doing this than disadvantage. Let's leave it at that. So let's look at an actual example. This was from my actual plays that I played personally on February 6, 2020, actual plays that I sent out to clients. So NHL, we had 2 plays in NHL. We had Florida plus 117. We had Vancouver plus 110. So we were playing 2 small dogs. And you can see the red marks there. We lost both of those games, unfortunately. So the way this is structured, since those are 1 unit per sport, so instead of risking $100 on each play, you would risk $50 on each play. So in the event that you lose both those games, which is what happened, you would be down minus 100. Okay? Now, the other sport that we had was one NBA play. So if we have 1 play in that particular sport, then what do? We risk a full unit. So in this particular example, we had New York Knicks, and I've always talked about the value of playing moneyline dogs. It's important in any sport to play moneyline dogs. If it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever, you have to incorporate that. The reason being is moneyline dogs win in every sport, so you have to incorporate that into your wagering so that you can benefit from moneyline dogs winning. All right, so Knicks won this game, so 145. But here's the kicker. We wagered a full unit here, right? So we'd wager for a $100 player, you risk 100 to make what? To make 145. So when you add this up, we won 145 minus the 100, so you're up $45 or 0.45 units. And what was the percentage? There were 3 total games. We won 1 of those, 33% win percentage. Okay? So, and all that had to do was, the reason this worked is how we structure our units. Okay? Now, let's look at the traditional way of wagering. So what would happen is, if you're a $100 player, you risk $100 on each of those plays. You had 3 plays total, you're going to risk $100 on each play. So the 2 hockey games, we lost right there, 100, 100. You risk 100 on the Knicks. They won, so you were up 145 there. However, if you add it up, you lose 200 in hockey, you win 145 in NBA, you're down $55 or 0.55 units. So again, I'm not telling you that you should change your wager structuring to do this. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just telling you it's something that I do now, and I think it's helped. Now, granted, again, you don't have the growth that you normally have if you went 3-0, but it gets rid of that huge unit variance where you could go, for example, let's say you had this example we're looking at here. You wager the traditional way, you're down a half unit. Let's say the next day you go 0-3. Now and then the next day you go 1-5. What's that? 3. I forgot what I just lost my train of thought, y'all. But anyway, the point is, if you risk 1 unit per sport per day, the most you can lose is what? 1 unit per sport per day. So it's a great method for a seasoned handicapper, and it's also great for somebody just starting out in sports betting. It's just a very good way to do it. Now, I think in order to do this, me personally, I play a lot of different sports, right? For somebody that plays, if you're just playing college basketball and college football, that's your thing. That's the only sports you wager on. Well, then I don't know if I would recommend that per se, because if you have 3 plays, they're all going to be in NCAA basketball, right? So you're risking 3 units total, or if you have 1 play, or if you have 2 plays, etc. One of the reasons I do this is I wager soccer, wager in NFL, NBA, NCAA basketball. So when you have a lot of different sports, very important, I think, and very effective way to structure all this. So if you've got any questions about this, shoot me an email. As always, don't forget, if you want to join the website, we have a coaching program. Made a lot of videos here on YouTube. You can see that. It's $29.95 a month. You get all of our power rankings for all sports, so you can look at our lines for the games, compare them to the sportsbooks lines, find value. We also have a full video library of handicapping videos, how to handicap all the sports we handicap, both subjectively and objectively. And we also upload a new video each week. You get unlimited email support from yours truly. It's $29.95 a month. However, we still have our special going, which is when you join, the first month is just $19.95 per month. And then, of course, it's $29.95 a month after that. until you cancel or whatever. So $19.95 for the first month. And if you want to just get our plays, that is $49.95 a month. Currently, we have plays for soccer, NHL, NCAA basketball, and NBA, even though it's not listed there. And there are links in the description box for both of those if you want to sign up. And as always, hopefully you like this video. If you haven't followed me on Instagram or Twitter, you can find me there, MGCovers, covered spelled with a Z. And if you haven't subscribed, greatly appreciate all the new subscribers. We're getting a lot more interaction. So if you got a question, you can drop it in on the comment section on this video. Hope everybody has a profitable day. And remember, risk 1 unit per sport per day. Have a good one, guys.